Bienvenidos a este nuevo vídeo de Devir TV. Hoy estamos en el hall número 5, en el stand maravilloso de Shadi. Hello Shadi, welcome to our YouTube channel.
Welcome to my booth, thank you for having me.
Thanks for receiving us. Shadi Torbey es el autor de Onirim, un juego brutal que vamos a sacar próximamente con Devir en esta maravillosa caja. Ahora hablaremos de ella porque contiene mucho, pero además es el autor de una saga de juegos que es la saga Onirim y bueno, pues tiene un montón, aquí los podéis ver expuestos. Pero bueno, hoy vamos a hablar de este lanzamiento que es la primera vez que sale Onirim en castellano y nos hace una ilusión tremenda. So Shadi, it will be the first time that Onirim is released in Spanish.
Yes.
It's a game that we really love from a long time ago, so we are super excited for this.
Thank
Are
you.
you too?
I am very excited to see my game in Spanish.
Yeah, for how long has been Onirim in the market?
The first edition came out in 2009, I think, and the reboot some years later.
Okay, like 13 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I always thought that you are a bit of a visionary because nowadays solo games, cooperative little games of cards are pretty usual.
Yes.
But the first time I tried Onirim, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, for me was very surprising that, well, a solo card game, what the hell is that? But I was addicted. So how this idea came to your mind?
Very egoistically, my real job is to be an opera singer. And because
Really?
of this, yes, and because of this, I travel a lot. I mean, I traveled, before Corona and stuff a lot. And I was also a passionate gamer, but I could not take my friends and family with me when I was going, on tour for singing. And so I started to take an interest into solitaire gaming. What were the options? And the options, as you said, 13 years ago were not big. Modern board gaming was fantastic at the time already, but with almost no option as solitaire. And you had the old patience, with the old deck of cards that our grandmothers used to play, but those were very boring. Yeah. I bought several books to learn new rules of patience, and while all the time this is too random, it has no theme obviously, but it has also no rules. It's not interesting just to, reveal cards and see what happens. So I started to think, fantasize, if only we could have, a series of good board games, portable, that would allow us to play solo, but to have real modern rules. And so this is how it started.
So as no one did it before, you had to do it.
Yeah, more or less. There were some instances. I remember playing Al Capone from the Bonanza series. And Al Capone you can play solo or two-player. So I played it. I thought, this is great. If only the whole Bonanza series was, for 1 or 2 players. And then I thought, okay, somebody should make a series. I will make a series.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how you came with the mechanic of the game?
This one came from the theme. So I started to think about a series of games that could be played solo. And my first idea was, you are in a labyrinth. You want to find the doors of this labyrinth, and there is something with you in the labyrinth, some kind of monster. This was one of the ideas. And I had another idea the same night, and this would give the game Urbion later. So I had those 2 ideas the first
same night?
Yeah. And the next day I thought, okay, I have to start working on one. Let's start working on the labyrinth. How do I create I had set some limits. I wanted only cards. I did not want to board. So I thought, how can I create a card game that tells us the story of you exploring a labyrinth, giving you interesting choices and being playable solo. And it started I started working on the game like this.
Okay, for the theme. It
started
amazes
with the
me
theme.
because the mechanic is super solid and the theme, I really like it, but I don't know, it's cool that it started like this because sometimes there's a nightmare in the game. You really hate it.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. For the people in our country that hasn't played Onirim before, can you tell them how it works more or less in short?
I will do the very, very short version. In order to win, you have to find 8 doors. You have 4 colors, and each color has 2 doors. If you manage to put all 8 on the table, you win the game. You have 2 ways of getting a door. The first is by playing 3 cards of this color, of the same color, one after the other. For instance, here I play 3 blue cards, and I could search into the deck for a blue door and put it on the table. You have only to respect one rule: you cannot play the same symbol directly next one after the other. So this is not allowed because it's sun. So each turn you either play or discard a card. Then you have to complete your hand. As I said, the doors are shuffled into the deck. If you draw such a door and you have in your hand the key card that corresponds to the door, you can discard it and then you get the door. This is the second way. So you have to manage the cards you have in hand. You have to know when to use the keys, because the keys also allow you to do other stuff that are very interesting. And you have to beware because there are nightmares also shuffled among the doors in the deck. And when you draw such a card, you have to have a penalty. You choose which one among 4. And so choosing the right penalty at the right moment is also very important.
Very important.
So you try to get all 8 doors before you exhaust the whole deck. This is the very, very fast version, but the long version is not much longer. The basic game is quite easy. We have included 7 expansions in this box, and this gives much more depth and possibility to your game.
7 expansions in this tiny box. I've played 3 of them, and they add a lot of variety and difficulty to the game, and I think those can be mixed between.
They can. If you want, you can do the big game with all the expansions, the expansions at once, or you can just choose one if you want to have a little twist on the basic game.
And it's a solo game, but also can be played cooperatively by 2 players.
Yes, for me it was very important to always have a good, not from the beginning. From the beginning it was very egoistical. You know, I wanted to have one game solo. And then I started thinking, another option for solo gaming back then was to take a cooperative game like Lord of the Rings by Rainer Knizia and play it on your own. Yeah. And it was fun, actually. You just played 2-handed, and it was a good game. So I thought, okay, maybe we could do the other way around. We take a solo game, and we try to see if we can have a 2-player version. And I tried several stuff, and then I got to a version, a variant that was very satisfying. I was very happy about it. And since then, it's very important to me that all the Oniverse games have a very good 2-player version also.
All the games of the series are solitaire and 2-player in cooperative?
Yes, absolutely. And actually, if you want to know the whole truth, there were some other games planned in this series, but eventually I removed them from the Oniverse because the 2-player version was not good enough for me. So for me, it is a big part. It is not only, you know, some added variant that is not very good, but we put it so we can write 2 on the box. I did not care about writing 2 on the box, but you know, if we have a 2-player version, it has to be a good version.
So this is the first one of the Oniverse. There's a lot of things there. Okay, and what about the 7 expansions? You can tell us a little thing of them?
Yes, well, I mean, I tried to push this system of a game that had only 1 deck of cards and that represents the labyrinth as far as I could. So, for instance, the Nightmare Doors are bad dream cards then you can draw. Then I thought, okay, could we have good dreams that you cannot control, because you do not control when the dream comes, but you can control what happens with the dream. And so I thought it would be nice to have the opposite, so a positive dream.
Good dream.
Yeah. I thought, okay, it is very free in the basic game in which order you get the door cards. What about giving an extra condition that you have to have all the doors in a specified order? This gave another expansion. I thought, okay, what about adding even more dreams that you could, so to say, hire, you know, if you discarded the card? And this gave yet another expansion. The keys are very powerful cards. I thought, okay, what about another card that would have special powers? This gave the glyph, that is the opposite of a key. A key you discard, you reveal cards, and then you try to destroy. I mean, you have to destroy your card. What about a card that you would discard, you reveal cards, and if you have a door, you get it. So instead of having a destructive effect, you have a positive effect. So I push the game in a lot of different directions. There is one expansion that reduces the shuffling, because you have to shuffle, especially when you find doors or nightmares that you don't have to trigger. You set them aside, and at the end of the turn you shuffle them back. And I thought, okay, what about removing this shuffling? So there is an expansion that takes care of that also. So I went in all kind of different directions in order, to enrich the experience as much as possible.
Very good. It really amazed me how many things can happen in this game, in this little box. So there's a lot of things going on there. Shadi, I think that it's even more difficult to win with 2 players than with 1, or is something that only happens to me?
Maybe.
Or I have a bad partner. I don't know.
Well, what's interesting, obviously, if you play cooperative, and this is why we included it even in the rule, is not necessary to have an alpha player that dictates everything. So this is why one of the variants here that we suggest when you play 2-player is not to speak, and you have to guess, because everything is open information.
Yeah,
also the hand of the players is to see what you should do in order to help your partner to win, because you win together. So yeah, you have to have 2 players that have the same level and not one bossing the other one around. So yeah, maybe it's a bit more tricky.
Could be. We can recommend as well to people, if they want, they can play the app, because it's a good way to understand the game and then play the final one.
Yes, of course, they did a good job with the app. You don't have as many expansions as in the box.
That's interesting.
And you don't have the 2-player variant, but as a tutorial,
as
or
if
you are, if you are in the subway and you want to have a quick game, it's obviously a very good choice. I personally always love the touch of paper, cardboard, and this is why also I developed this line of games. All the games in the series are not only card games, because also I wanted to go, into different component tiles, dice, boards, and but yeah. So obviously having the physical sensation is also always great.
It's always the full experience.
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
Okay, Shadi, and I know that you are releasing even more games, so you are an active author. You still have a lot of ideas in your mind.
Yes, actually we planned from the beginning. As I said, the first day I wanted to do a series. The first night I had already 2 ideas, and then a couple of months later, after developing Onirim, the project took more and more body, and eventually I had a whole plan of the series, what I wanted to do with the series. And so now we have planned, you can see it here, we have already the 6th released games of the series, and we plan 3 more games, before really ending it like a big TV or novel series, some kind of epic series. So we have a big finale planned for the series, awesome. And we know really where we want to go with it.
Cool, for us it's a new beginning, so I hope everyone in all our countries enjoy very much Onirim. That much that we can publish even more games from the Universe.
I hope so.
Because they are super special.
Thank you.
So Shadi, thank you for your time. Thank you for your games. Enjoy the fair.
Thank you, you too.